Hello and welcome to the second edition of Business Horizons, the podcast from NBSO Lyon, Southeast France, designed for Dutch entrepreneurs looking to explore opportunities in France. I'm Frédéric Crouzet, journalist, and I'm delighted to welcome Madelijn Vervoord to the show today. Madelijn is a renowned leader in the luxury hospitality sector. She's a general manager of the InterContinental Lyon Hotel Dieu and the consul of the Netherlands in Lyon. Hello, Madelijn. Thank you for being today in Business Horizon Studio.
Hello, Fred. Nice to be here. Thank you.
So let's get to know you a bit better. Can you walk us through your journey from the Netherlands to France?
Of course. So I was born in Holland, in Eindhoven, actually. So I'm a big fan of PSV, of course. And then we moved around a lot in Holland. And I attended the hotel school in The Hague. And from the hotel school, I went to New York, where I spent 2 years. I worked for another hotel group. And I came to Paris because I wanted to learn French. I didn't speak French at all at the time. And I wanted to stay for 1 year, and I actually stayed for 20 years in Paris. And I worked with several hotel groups. And I started working with InterContinental Hotels in 2003. So I've been working with them for 22 years. I moved then to Marseille to open our beautiful hotel Marseille. And I've been in Lyon for the past 6 years, also to open the beautiful InterContinental, which has a bar that won a prize for most beautiful hotel bar in the world.
Oh, really?
So next time we'll do it around a drink in the bar. And then I have the chance of being the, as you said, Honorary Consul of the Netherlands here in the region. And I feel very proud to represent my country, my born country, in my adopted country here in France.
Well, you said that's one of the most beautiful bar in the world. Can you tell us just a few words about the building?
Yes, so the Hotel Dieu is the one of the most emblematic buildings of Lyon. It used to be the hospital of Lyon. Actually, 1/3 of the people of Lyon were born there, of the actual people of Lyon, because it only closed in 2010. It's a beautiful building on the Rhône bank, and in the middle of the Hotel Dieu is a dome, which is 32 meters high. It was designed by Soufflot, a very well-known French architect in the 18th century, who built the Pantheon in Paris. And the dome is a national historical landmark.
Yeah, that's one of the most beautiful building in Lyon, very well known. As the consul of the Netherlands in Lyon, can you paint us a picture of what your role entails?
So it's honorary, right? So it's not a career diplomat. So I do it on a voluntary basis next to my full-time job. And we're here to help Dutch people in need in the region. If there is a problem, then I'm sort of the first person to arrive before somebody from the embassy, for instance, can be here. We participate in a lot of consular events to represent the Netherlands, of course. And then also with NBSO, with Stefano and Astrid, we do a lot of events to support Dutch business here in the region. And the network, we'll talk about it later, but the network is very important to do so.
Yeah, that's right. You know that cultural adaptation can be tricky. What was your biggest challenge in integrating into the French business and social culture as a Dutch professional?
For me, the Dutch, they want to be pragmatic and quick and efficient, and in Holland we often see the glass half full, so we're very optimistic about everything. It doesn't work like that in France, right? The French appreciate those things, but there are many other things that are just as important. For instance, when you propose something to a French person, they won't say right away, "Oh, that's a great idea. Let's work on this idea." They will say, "Oh yes, but this, how do we do this? This might be a problem. This might be an obstacle." And what a lot of French people say is "Oui, mais non." And so, how do you anticipate this? How do you anticipate the obstacles, the questions? Because the most important thing is to establish trust. And once you've established trust with a French person, you establish that relationship, then the French are very appreciative of our pragmatism, our enthusiasm, our positivism, and also the way we see things, right? Because we always think that there's an opportunity.
Okay. In your role, you often interact with high-profile individuals. Do you have any golden rule for effective communication that you will swear by?
I think I have the chance, and in my workspace, and also as a consul, to meet with high-profile French and foreign people, and it's really a big variety. It goes from the mayor of Lyon to, for instance, and I can say this now because everybody knows she stayed at the Hotel Taylor Swift, for instance. I think what's important, especially when you meet a French personality, look up some of the information about that person. What did they do well? What was a great thing they accomplished? Because it's important. And when you go and present yourself to that person, to of course always do it with a smile. Be very, very polite. Still very important in France to not say tu, but say vous. C'est Monsieur Dumont. And to show that you are actually very interested in what the person has done, what he has accomplished. It puts them at ease, and it builds that relation of trust.
Okay, could you share some key projects you have worked on as a consul, and is there any notable collaboration with the NBSO Lyon?
I think first of all, as a consul, we work within the consular network. So there are missions that we do for the embassy. And then there are missions that we do for cities in Holland that come to visit Lyon. We've had a mission from Rotterdam, we had a mission from Utrecht, we had a mission from The Hague, and vice versa, because the city of Lyon is also very interested in seeing what's happening in Holland about circular economy, about traffic in cities. Biking is the big thing that we always talk about. So how do we accompany those missions that come into the city? And then with NBSO, this is the biggest part, because economy-wise is the most important thing that we do. So I participate in events that NBSO organizes. We had an apéritif not very long ago, and I think also the mission we had. Our ambassador is now in post for the past 2.5 years, but the first time he came to Lyon, we did the presentations together throughout the city. So in the mayor's office, in the metropole's office, in the region's office. So that's also part of an interesting part of what I do as a consul. But I would say the work with NBSO to support the Dutch entrepreneurs who are interested in this region and who need a network, because that's how it works in France. A cold call or a cold email does not work at all. If you don't have somebody who says, well, call this person on my behalf, it's the best way in.
Yeah, sure. When you said you received Dutch delegation in Lyon, where are you driving them? What do you want to show them of this beautiful city?
They're very interested. For instance, we had a delegation from Rotterdam, and they combined, they participated. They're called the Rotterdam Ambassador, the running ambassadors. They participate in the marathon, and they do an international marathon every year. And they decided to come to Lyon because they were interested in how the city developed, what are the new ways of living, and especially in the new neighborhood, Confluence, where there's a lot of new build, and they're really rethinking about how can everybody live together. So that was a big focus of their trip. And then, of course, we have the pleasure of being in the gastronomy capital of the world.
That's true.
So the food is always important also. So I think there's a lot of discoveries in Lyon. It's also for a mission that comes in. A lot of delegations travel by train now from Holland. So it's very accessible to come to Lyon by train. And I think then after, they also wanted to see, for instance, how the riverbanks were developed because, like in all cities, there used to be traffic on the riverbanks, and it's slowly disappearing for alternate.
Everywhere in Europe.
Yes, well, true.
For the Dutch listeners considering business opportunities abroad, why should they look beyond tourism and consider Southeast France for their ventures? It could be Lyon, Grenoble, Marseille, or Montpellier.
I think first of all, Lyon is the second largest city in France, but it's also the second.
There was a debate with Marseille.
Well, when I lived in Marseille, I said it was Marseille. So now I live in Lyon, I say it's Lyon. But Lyon definitely is the second largest economical city in France. It's on the crossroads of Europe. We just talked about the train station. It's one of the biggest train stations in Europe. The airport also has excellent connectivity. And then Lyon going down south through the Rhone Valley until Marseille is also a big economical hub. And I think traditionally in Lyon, there have been many French enterprises, a lot of industries, but today a lot of startups that are implemented in Lyon. And some of the traditional French companies are still here, right? Like the laboratories, Madelijn, Mérieux, the big company, French company Seb. So there's a historical industry that's still here, and it's mixed with a lot of modern tech companies. And so accessibility is important. I think also in Lyon you have other institutions. Interpol is in Lyon. The International Cancer Research Center is in Lyon. And so it makes Lyon a very international city. And almost everybody speaks English, which is great also about Lyon.
Yeah, it's a kind of a economic hub.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So is it so different making business in Lyon and in Marseille, for instance?
I think everywhere in France, it's a bit different. Paris is different from Lyon, and Lyon is different from Marseille.
And from your experience.
Yes. There's some things you don't do the same way in the three cities, but overall, I think what's really important in France is to build that relation of trust. You don't speak business with French people on the first appointment. You don't go to the point right away. It's very important to get to know the person that's in front of you. And I think the more you go down south, the more important the form of the discussion is. And I think what's also interesting in our region is that the Rhone Valley plays a very, very important role. First of all, there's now river traffic that's coming up. So Mediterranean onto Lyon. It's going to be a big thing in the coming years. There's also 80% of all the fruit that we eat in France grows on the riverbanks of the Rhone. I don't even speak about the wine, right? Because the wine's excellent. And another interesting fact is that all the huge internet cables that run in the oceans from Asia, they come through the Suez Canal into the Mediterranean. They arrive in Marseille. They're big data centers in Marseille. And then the cables go up the Rhone River, come to Lyon to get distributed into Switzerland and Germany.
Yeah, that's one of the new business in Marseille, the data centers. Yeah. So there are opportunities for Dutch companies there?
I think there are opportunities for Dutch companies everywhere. The French are very good at certain things. The Dutch are very good at other things, or same things sometimes. And a combination of the two often works out really, really well.
In what sector are you thinking?
Well, I think I read an article in a newspaper this morning that actually high tech in Holland is one of the we're advanced far more than, for instance, the US or France, and we don't really know about it, right? So how can we get other countries to know that this is what we're really good at? I think also circular energy, we're very good in everything that's renewable. We talked about batteries being recycled. Those are things that we have a big advantage in Holland. And I think also we, as Dutch, we also have this capacity of going everywhere, selling a product everywhere. And it's what we said in the beginning, being pragmatic, we always find a solution. And this is something that the French appreciate.
Okay, that's very interesting. Let's talk about female entrepreneurship in France. What opportunities or challenges do you see for Dutch women in business here?
Now, that's a funny one, because when I started working in France, there are already many women working. Women have been working in France for far longer than in the Netherlands. And I see my mother-in-law, who's now 83, she's worked her entire life. And when I got kids, I mean, I think also life is organized in France around working women. It's easy for women to go and work. And I remember when my kids went to school, my sisters, they were very jealous of the weekly school menu where the kids had entrée, plat, fromage, dessert, and they ate in school, and it was organized. After school, they could stay on. So for me, it's not so much a challenge or an opportunity. I think there are more women in key positions in France than in the Netherlands today. And when you look at the director of the European Central Bank, right? She's a French woman.
Right. So it's not a big challenge.
No, honestly, I think the French, sometimes we think that we think in cliches sometimes, and we think that the French are a bit traditional or old-fashioned, but not at all.
We talked about this a bit earlier, but for you, what should be the most crucial cultural strategic lesson Dutch businesses should keep in mind when they are entering the French market?
In preparation, you need to find out as much as you can about the person you're going to deal with or the market you want to enter. Who are the competitors? What are you offering that's better or more than the competition? Why would they sign with you? You have to anticipate all the questions they may ask, because as we said before, the glass is half empty, right? So there are a lot of reasons why I wouldn't work with you, and they come up with plenty of reasons why it doesn't work. So you have to anticipate those, and the process will probably be long. It's very rare that a French company says right away, okay, yes, we're happy to work with you. It takes time to build the relationship, the process. You have to build the confidence, right? And sometimes it has to include food, right? You have to go for lunch or dinner. It's very, very important.
That's very important.
So I think in Holland, what we think, the substance is more important than the form. But in French, sometimes the form is more important than the substance, or at least in the beginning to start off with. And always use the network. It's very important that you get to know somebody who knows somebody who can help you get into some. If you send a mail, or people won't even answer the phone.
That's a good tip. Do you have any other practical advice for Dutch expats considering moving to France, either professionally or personally?
First of all, learn French.
Yeah, that's the base.
It's not that French people don't speak English, but it's in Holland, when you don't speak Dutch. I mean, today you go into a restaurant in Amsterdam, you're not even able to speak Dutch because the waiter is from another country. Okay. Here in France, it's important to learn the language, to speak French, to take your time. It's not going to come overnight. Be humble and be polite. We just said the tu. It takes a while before you can say tu. And they won't accept it if you say to somebody who you don't know, right? Compliment, enjoy a meal, enjoy a discussion. It's very important. French like to discuss and debate about a lot of things. And you have to understand the French culture. I think this is very important. The argument, the challenge, it often gets very heated, but it's all part of the way they are, right? So it's important that you accept it, that you participate in it. You have to be diplomatic. It's not the straight way forward. It's not the Netherlands. It's not America. It takes time to build the relationship. And when you move here as a family, school is a great opportunity to meet people. I've made many friends because of the parents of my children. The parents of the friends of my children. They're professionally, they're still in France. There are a lot of clubs that can build the network. I think it's interesting to be part of a club also professionally, and build the relationship. I think sometimes we get frustrated because, for instance, we don't get invited into a French person's home. It takes a long time, but once you get there, it also means that the relationship lasts a lifetime.
Yeah. France has also the reputation to be a very paper and administrative country. Is that something you have experienced?
Absolutely. And also when you make a deal with somebody, unless it's not written on paper and signed off, even though we handshake and we say, yes, we're happy to work together, the paperwork is very, very important. And the formality also in the paperwork, be it an email or a letter. Registered mail is still something that we do a lot in France. But putting things in writing remains very important. But I think also it's also their love for literature, right? It's reading books and knowing how to talk well is still very much part of the French culture.
Yeah, that's right. What surprised you most when you arrived in France or when you arrived in Lyon?
Well, when I arrived in France, honestly, the first few weeks, I didn't understand anything. And I had taken French classes in school for 8 years, and they don't really articulate very well. And so I had a headache for about 3 months because when I came home, I was so... The first friends I made in Paris when I lived there were foreign friends, not French friends. And so they can come over as pretty cold, even young people, although I think it has changed a lot now. I think contact is much easier. But once the doors open and once they appreciate you, I think it goes so much beyond what you can live, for instance, in the United States. When I moved to New York, I had friends the same night and I was invited everywhere. But the day I left, I didn't hear anything from anybody anymore. And it's very, very different here. And I really, really, I enjoy also the fact that culture remains so important. And there were a lot of, it's funny because in the beginning, I didn't understand. Every time when the French did not agree, they would go on strike, be in the street. And this is something we don't understand as Dutch people because you sit around the table and you talk about it. But this is their way of expressing themselves, right? So it's just part of daily life.
Talking about language, we have also very, very strong and different accents. Did you manage to understand the Marseille accent?
No, so when I started in Paris, I already had trouble understanding the Parisians. But then after a while, it went better. But then people from Canada or Marseille, I didn't understand anything. But now I can do you the Marseille accent if you want to, right? So I integrated really well down south.
Okay, so as you know, we have a tradition on this podcast where we ask question for our next guest without knowing who he or she is going to be. So our previous question was from Stefano Hustov, the head of NBSO Lyon. And he asked a very interesting question for you. What is the key selling point of this region? We talked about it a bit earlier, but in one word, what would be the key selling point?
And one word is a bit difficult. Maybe I can summarize what we said before. For me, it's accessibility. It's diversity of the economical landscape because there's so many different activities going on here. It's proximity to all that matters in France, be be it Paris, be it the south of France, even Geneva is an hour and a half away from here. The history, the culture, the gastronomy, of course, and probably also the willingness of the region to make sure that foreign companies are doing business here. And traditionally, historically, Lyon has always been on the crossroads of Europe and even beyond, because the Silk Route coming from China ended here in Lyon. And people traveling from the south wanting to go to Paris had to come through Lyon. So it has been in the genes and in the way of doing business here.
No, that's a good resume of the situation of Lyon. So what would be your blind question to our next guest?
So my blind question would be, what do you think the reason is that so many Dutch people live and work in our region?
You've been listening to Business Horizons, podcast series brought to you by NBSO Lyon, Southeast France, where we explore topics about doing business in France, discuss key opportunities. We share business culture tips for Dutch companies looking to expand in the vibrant region of Lyon and Southeast France. My name is Fred Cruzet. Thank you for listening, and until next time.